All right, folks. Mayor of Kingstown is a wrap. Season 2 wrapped up, and I thought, well, let me bring in the guy who really helped me find it. If it wasn't for the Mad Barber himself, so here he is. Mad, thanks for hanging out with me, man. Let's talk about this great show.
So I'm not a barber. The Mad Barber Entertainment comes from myself and 4TM Barber. We kind of did a joint venture into it.
Hey, you're the Mad Barber, man. You can't escape the brand. It's part of it. I don't want to tell you.
No, that's not true. But yeah,
Matt is a great YouTuber. Has some fun stuff, a lot of comedy, which I enjoy. Just taking a break. Like so many of his videos are like She-Hulk's the best and Kenobi's the best and whatever. So if you haven't had just a moment's pause of just taking in just smile at the absurdity of things in life, it's definitely out there. And I appreciate you doing that, man. It definitely is a break for me sometimes.
what was your comment on the Mandalorian one? What was your favorite part? I can't remember.
Oh, I don't remember either. I watched it like a week or so ago. Now I've watched 2 episodes of this crappy show, so now my brain's
Oh
snapped
my
even more.
god!
Yeah.
Last night's or today's
Nope.
episode,
I have finished last night's. I have finished the new.
so
Well, this
bad.
morning, depending on how you want to look at it, but just everything
Oh,
about it's just a mess.
it
And
was Eat It Like a Frog Baby.
I just can't stand it. I just hate this show so much. I can't believe they're ruining the one thing that they've done. I don't want to say they've done it great, but at least they did something right. But Paramount's like hit and miss though, man. Like it's funny how it's like a feast or famine over there. Like for every Mayor of Kingstown or Tulsa King and things like that, you get these terrible shows too. But I was kind of like, well, I'm late. I didn't want to get into a new show. And you were like, no. This is really, really good. You got to give
Yep.
it a run. Season 1, man, talk about like an exponential growth of fun. So let's
It,
pitch the show about what Mayor of Kingstown even is for those of you who probably don't even know what we're talking about.
so it centers around your antagonist is Jeremy Renner playing Mike Dovolsky. No,
McLusky.
McLusky. Yeah, and he is a prisoner advocate, inmate advocate, right? But really, he has to take the role after. I don't want to give that away either. You know.
Oh, it's okay. I think it's okay because I mean, I think that it's so there's a family of them, the McLuskys, and this Kingstown is like what 7 prisons in like a 10
Something
mile
like that.
radius.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he is basically the mayor is the ambassador, right? And through a turn of events that kicks off the events of season 1, Mike is now thrust into this role.
Yeah.
See what I
And
did there? See what I did there?
that very good.
Mhm.
Yeah, and he basically tries to keep the peace for
Mhm.
both inside and out, because if there's peace in, there's peace out, right? Because it all works conjointly to the violence that will spill out.
Yeah, nothing is without consequence. Like everything is. I sound very racist, I'm sure, in some of my reviews where I refer to it as the whites, the 2 groups of blacks, the Hispanics, the cops. So it's like I don't want to get into the weeds too much with some of this stuff. Yes, it's Aryan Brotherhood. I know who they are. Whatever. I don't care. It's the AB group. It's the whites. It's the Nazi
Yeah.
white guys. Like it's this is the black guys. There's Bloods and Crips. Good luck trying to keep track of everything at times because sometimes as soon as you get attached to certain characters, they're gone. So it moves so fast. It
Well,
yeah,
luckily they're color coordinated with the blue and the red, so you can keep them separated. Although there's really zero focus on the Bloods in this
right.
show. The main gang that Mike interacts with is the Crips, and by far my favorite character in this entire show is Bunny, who runs the Crips on the outside,
Yep.
and he's awesome.
Yeah, Bunny is head and shoulder, but I think he plays a perfect foil to Mike, like the ambassador of all
Yeah.
this absolutely unmitigated chaos that Mike is always thrust. And reality is, and he didn't want this job. He has a checkered past where he was behind the fence.
Hmm.
He's dealing with kind of a hardcore lifestyle of the brother, the middle brother, and some of those kinds of things. And when
Well,
it
that's because of his
culminates,
mother.
oh, we'll get to her. Yeah. It culminates, and I'm just going to use some general terms for season 1 in case you've never seen it, but I don't want to spoil too much. We can't talk about season 2 if we don't at least set up some of this stuff. So you have there's different characters that are part of the police force. There's inside the prison, outside the prison, different things, but it culminates with this incredible prison riot, which I got to be honest, man, for a TV streaming show that is not like hardcore mature, they pushed the envelope as far as they could go, man. It
Uh,
was it was awesome.
Well, that's the benefit of it being on, because I was asking ETEP this the other day because he said he saw it on regular television on CBS proper. And I
Oh
was like,
my.
man, how can they get away with all the nudity and the F bombs that are being dropped in this show? I don't know if they have an edited version on CBS, but on this is one of the good things about streaming is that you can go all in without trying to limit yourself to make it onto broadcast television. You know what I mean?
Oh, I mean, it brings such an authenticity. And again,
Yeah.
I'm possibly one of the cleaner of the creators. So for me, I'm like hitting fast forward. Like Iris can put some clothes on now, please. I mean, I get it, but there's a lot of Iris in season one, baby. So I was like, holy cow. Um, but I mean, really, just like the human trafficking element that is very high level, which actually in a lot of ways made it kind of more disturbing. You know what I mean? It's like, we're going to
Yeah.
move her over here. We're going to move her over there. And you're like, what on earth? The total disregard of human life that's portrayed on the show is really something. That takes us to season two. So season two, obviously the fallout of the riot. And I think there's quite a bit of a slow burn in season two. Like it doesn't quite know exactly where it wants to go exactly, but at the same time all the characters continue their story arcs, right? Kyle had left and he's kind of like drawn back into thing. Mike's trying to keep the peace. There's no prison, right? So they're like tent city, so there's chaos there. The politics kind of come into play, which I think was interesting because you don't really care about the politics. Like you don't like know who this. I mean, you care more about the assistant DA because she
Right.
was relevant in season one, but the actual DA and the politics at him and above him were irrelevant. They make it relevant, but it's more like a faceless character. The warden, it's just I don't know. I can't remember enjoying a show on this level where like the C and D characters I cared so much about.
I agree. Normally I guess would fast forward through especially if I've seen it, if I'm rewatching something, I fast forward. And when I rewatch season one, the only parts I fast forwarded through with women, but to get to the guys. But no, I season two, it was interesting because it doesn't feel focused. There's a lot of different things happening with the negotiating on the leaders inside of the prison, and then that brings in the political um, side of things that you were talking about, and then you still have this lurking not Freddy Fourfinger. What's his name?
Oh, Littlefinger. Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll get to
Littlefinger.
Milo.
But
Milo's like the Russian oligarch. Yeah.
right, yeah, but there's just no. I don't see how it doesn't all connect like it did in season one. Season one, everything that you're seeing happens. All of it plays a part into leading up to the finale, to what happened at the prison.
Correct. Yeah, I think with season two, well, I get to why I think it worked better than I thought it would work. So I could agree with you for the first six or so episodes. I'm enjoying the ride and I'm enjoying
Mhm.
all of the journeys and just in crazy moments. Like for instance, the police corruption is just off the chain. Like the stuff that the one guy goes through, he goes and gets a serial killer out of jail to take care of somebody.
Yeah.
I was like, what the F? Like my jaw was hanging open. Like, did I just, yeah, it was
Well,
so
and
good.
what's interesting about that, because they kind of allude to it, but they keep it pretty ambiguous, is like if he has used him on other unsolved crimes that he has had, that he's pinned other murders on him so
Mm,
that they can clear it off the books, which has a very The Wire feel to it, you know?
that's interesting. Yeah, good call there. So I will say this about season two when it kicked off. The one thing I enjoyed about season two was I felt like the writers, in a very mature fashion, this is what you and I would do. If we sat down and we were tasked with writing season two, maybe we didn't think we were getting a season two, but all right, we would rewatch season one and we would take notes on all of the little unanswered threads, all
Right.
the little pieces of the puzzle that didn't really go anywhere. We didn't have time, whatever. And then we're going to start pulling at those threads a little bit. So the clear thing was the fallout from the prison. What are you going to do with all these people that are in the tent? And of course, what Mike is tasked with is, again, the peacekeeper, is there's no leadership or structure in the prison side. Like he doesn't know what to do. Like they can't keep things under control. It's absolutely nuts. As fast as someone rises, someone takes them out. And he's trying to figure all this out. And he comes up with this crazy scheme because at the time, it seems like there's political agreements and handshakes, which is kind of ironic because in season 1, no one adhered to those rules. But in season 2, they're like, oh, we're going to try this again. And we're going to get more extreme by putting the leaders into the prison system.
On the outside to the inside, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to reverse things. And then what happens is, of course, the politics get involved and they start looking at like scapegoats. They start looking at people, bodies that we can just kind of throw at the press for political and PR reasons. I will say there's a lot of that I didn't like, except that there were moments that were fantastic. Like when the AB guys would take somebody's out with the arm in the machine. Bunny, of course, has a great story arc in the prison. Like you get to see Bunny actually fight like a brawler, like a big dude would fight like this.
I knew he was big. You know he's big, but you don't. But he fights like a big dude would. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like a football player. Like I don't want to fight a defensive lineman. Yeah, I don't want to fight some like 260 to 320 pound defensive lineman. I don't care how skilled I am. There's leverage issues, and there's just literally just gravity against you. And he plays it beautifully. He plays it perfectly. This actor is well done.
It's so good. Yeah. And I kept thinking he was British. I don't know why, but he is from the U.S. He just has this British feel to him. You know how you can tell some British actors when they play American, something just feels off.
Yeah, that's become sadly so commonplace now. With, tapping into there, and I will say that I think I've mentioned it on streams before on why, because they get all this theater training over there that they just try to hit it rich here, so they're not as skilled and diverse in some of these different things. But Toby Bamtifa, is that how you would say his name?
Something like that. Yeah. But it reminded me of Rocky 2 when Mick was like, look, you don't have speed. He has so much more speed. We're going to focus on raw power. It may not have been Rocky 2. It's one of them. But just raw power. And that's when he's just beating the crap out of the slabs of meat and stuff. And that's what Bunny's fight style was to me, was just raw power. Just like powerhouse. Yeah. And man, yeah. Dude. Him and his buddy hanging out in the little back room that they had.
Yeah.
I could have had a whole season of that too. I loved that guy.
Yeah, that was a fun, like the Goodfellas versus Godfather conversation for a movie nerd like me.
Yeah.
That was the best, What did you think about the transition of like the outside structure? Because I think there's a scene. Excuse me with what episodes there are, because at some point when you binge stuff to get through all of season 1 and get caught up, things kind of run together. But there's a scene in the street where they, instead of doing just a drive-by, they throw a Rottweiler or something in the sunroof of this dude's car. And I'm like, I don't know about anybody else, but that's a great way to kill somebody.
That is a horrible way to die.
Insane. That is insane. Yeah. And
then they leave the dog in there too.
Yeah. Yeah, you're stuck. The cops don't know what to do. Like you're destroying the evidence by the cop. The cops have to, take care of the dog in order to move the crime scene forward. And the show is so raw and gritty. I would not pretend to be up to date on, some of these big name shows over the last several years, obviously other than Sopranos. But it's definitely so real to me. It kind of makes me angry. And I know you came from like a police background.
Yeah.
I got angry at times. Like, I'm like, is this like too close to reality? Like, do we have this stuff going on? Because if we do, we need to have a talk. We need to get rid of some of the, you know what I mean? It felt so authentic that it kind of actually kind of ticked me off a little bit.
I've never worked in a big city. Should I say? So yeah, San Antonio is one of the bigger cities in Texas, but it does not compare to the towers in Baltimore or whatever hellhole this is in Michigan.
Yeah.
But yeah, the corruption part of the police is always a little bit iffy for me, because you're having to risk so much. You're literally risking your livelihood and your family's livelihood, right? I think that is the main driving force behind cops not to be corrupt,
Hmm.
because it
That's
would be
true.
so much easier if I could get sprinkle crack on everyone,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
but the
Yeah.
risk, and especially now with cameras everywhere in your car, on your body cam, and you can't really control it. And then you have other people, with their phone. Everyone has a video recording device on them. So to risk some shady shit, yeah, it
Yeah. I felt like
you
it
got to be
was one
desperate.
of those, it's one of those things where, yeah, I mean, the film feels very fiction. The show feels very fictional in that way because I know, like, okay, well, there would be street cameras, there'd be a body camera, things like that.
Yeah,
That kind of stuff really never comes in play in the show.
but I'm glad that it doesn't.
Well, it makes it feel like you're really immersed in the journey of this story. Like, for instance, like Robert, the guy that leads the SWAT, like through the prison riot, just taking people out one at a
Love them.
time. He is like, I don't understand why Marvel's. Oh, yeah, well, never mind. I know why. But if I were in charge, I'd be like calling this guy to be one of the bad guys. Like, he needs to be leveled up into, like, he was so believable in every aspect of the show. Like, it was so good.
So something that always sticks out because coming from both the military and from police, this gunplay, tactics, and all of that really stand out. If you don't nail it, I mean, I'm gonna pick up on it, and the girlfriend's gonna want to stop watching it because I'm just gonna be griping about it the whole time.
Yep.
But this show goes out of their way to make it legit, to make it authentic. Everything about the tactical team is feels 100% legit, as if they brought in some of the best to choreograph their movement, the way they hold their weapons, the way they shoot, even the way Robert speaks feels so real.
Mm.
One of the things I love about The Outpost, and I've got to talk to the director 2 times, Rod Laurie, on stream, real cool guy. And one of the things we talked about was how if you see a lot of movies when they're dealing with military, they will dumb down military acronyms and jargon so that people watching can understand. So if you see Battle Los Angeles, I think is what it was, the alien invasion movie, they're like, well, he's at the forward operating base. Well, he just came out of officer cadet training school or whatever.
Okay. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And the only no one talks to each other like that. They're gonna the fob, OTS. They're not going to spell it out like that to each other because you both know it. It's the whole, how do you get from one point to another in sci-fi? And they always fold the paper and they put a pencil through it as if the other 12 scientists in the room have never thought of this before, right? But with Robert in the TAC team specifically, they never do that. They never try to dumb it down for people watching. And I think that I think this show separates itself because it trusts the viewers are smart enough to get what is happening.
I couldn't agree more. And I think that it also does what John Wick has done well in that people get hurt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like,
Well,
Mike is really good at clearing rooms before he moves on, but he's also going to, like, tech elbows to the face and he's going to get shot at. He's like, it feels like they have done such a great job of thinking through, as you say, the technical maneuvering in some of these sequences, because some of them are just, I mean, you're there, you're waiting for someone to die. You just know how this is all going to shake out.
Milo's right hand dude, I don't know his name,
Oh,
the one that actually has an accent. You would think he would learn to stop pointing guns at Mike because every time he does, Mike takes it from him. It got to a point where I'm like, come on.
Yeah. Yeah. Joseph is one of those. Well, first off, the season does end and we do sort of like address Joseph, which is fine because there's a line by Milo, Littlefinger from Game of Thrones plays Milo, this Russian oligarch that's behind the prison walls, who's smart enough to know not to get caught up in the foray that breaks out at the end of season 1 and, like, figure out how to just, survive. And then I'm disappointed in season 2. If there's one thing I'm really disappointed with, they didn't really do enough with his character. Like, it just become like he's holed up in some church somewhere. It's like, I don't really care.
He was just there in the background while all of this prison stuff was being figured out. I'm fine with. I was fine with the focus being on that, but you have to do something with him.
Yeah, why would he just sit around and not? I mean, all he's talking about is, oh, I gotta get these bonds, I gotta get this money, whatever.
Mm,
But I'm like, yeah, but you also have the opportunity of a lifetime to take advantage of the chaos. All the leaders got put behind the fence, and next thing you know, you're not doing anything. You're just chilling out. And there's a line about, rising to the top because you've basically been around the longest. Like, and this is totally a corporate America thing that I've been touting forever. Like,
right.
your manager is usually not very good at their job. They just happen to survive longer than everyone else.
Oh, yes.
Uh, and Joseph is definitely the embodiment of that, and it finally does come to a head in season 2. Uh, but I can't stress enough how disappointed I was that Milo didn't have a presence, didn't really do a whole lot. Like, he just kind of like, he's out there till we
Right.
get to him. We're gonna get to him, but well, until then, we don't really care. Like, it's just
But I just what you're talking about with the whole manager thing. There was a position in our department that came open. They put a guy in there for temp, right? And he did such a bad job every time they brought somebody in, and it's a very high position. Every time they brought somebody in, everything was so fucked. The guy would always be like, "Yeah, no, no, I'm not going to do it." So he actually ended up getting the position full time, permanent, just because they could not find anyone else that wanted to take over.
wow. Yeah. No, I've been in those situations where you're just like, how on earth? But yeah, especially whenever you're at a company where it's some person that's been there for like 20 to 30 years and they're like at like senior VP level where they
Mhm.
basically sit around all day and read the paper and stuff. Like, they're just not even connected. They go into a few meetings here and there and put on a dog and pony show. And so much of that, it's sort of alluded to at times. Like, I think that even the police force is kind of like that at times in the show, where it's like, oh, what is this person? They're just incompetent people. We have 2 or 3 police officers that we need to focus on. All the rest of these are expendable
Yeah.
folks. Um, with the exception of Stevie. Aren't you want more Stevie? I love Stevie. Stevie's like totally in the pocket of Mike. He covers Mike's tracks more than once, and
Oh,
it's
the
like
bald guy.
the black guy that's his friend. That there's a
Oh,
cell
okay,
phone that
not the
drops.
bald one. Yeah,
No,
the
no,
other one.
that I think you're thinking of Kareem, right? I think Kareem is that one.
Oh no, the white bald guy, the cop.
Oh, that's
That.
Ian. Yeah, that's the co-creator of the show. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
No.
is he that?
Mhm,
Oh,
mhm.
because he was. I rewatched Wind River, which was Taylor Sheridan's directorial debut. Have you
Okay.
seen Wind River?
No, I have it on my list of
Oh,
things to get to.
it good. It's really good, and yeah, you see a lot of these same actors in there. He's in there, and a couple others. The prison guard guy that was the real big asshole in the first season, and then gets killed.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
with the the black hair. Anyway,
Okay.
he's in it as well. There's yeah, Wind River is definitely worth moving it up in your queue.
Okay. Okay. That sounds good. I'm very open to trying to find good. That's why I ended up with my Throwback Thursday concept of every Thursday. I've been trying to throw out something decent that people can turn to. It's not a thing that's done because I'm getting traffic or views on it. It's done because of passion. It's like, we got to
Yeah.
show people good stuff too. And I can't tell you how many times people are like, "Oh man, I haven't watched The Sting in years." I'm like, "Yeah, I hadn't either." And it was fun to go back and watch a historical piece done well. Like, it was crazy how I think that movie was added to like the Library of Congress because of its authenticity. Like, it
What's
was
it
one of
called?
those. The Sting. Robert Redford and Paul Newman, and kind of a little caper story. And it's from 1973, I believe. It's like 50 years
Yeah.
old. It's
Just on
interesting. It's like,
Netflix. Yeah. Okay.
yeah. So things like that. It's like these classic film. They won like a million Oscars and stuff like that. Like, these films are like, they just kind of got like, it started because we had been like hunkered down in Florida because of the weather. I think it was one of the hurricanes or something. Who knows? And we watched like 5 movies in 3 days. And I'm like, I shouldn't be doing anything unless it involves content, and just using my time wisely. And my wife's like, well, we'll bring back Throwback Thursday. You used to do it when you were on the radio and stuff like that. You always talk about what you were watching. And I said, that's a good idea. And I kind of had a list of them, and I was talking to a coworker who had never even heard of The Towering Inferno. Have you at least heard it?
Oh
Heard?
yeah, yeah, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, well, she didn't even know what it was. That's what my first one was, because I just watched it. And I'm like, this is like the all-star cast of its era. This is like the Tom Cruise and Hugh Jackmans and
Hmm.
all thrown together in one big action story before we had Star Wars and Jaws and stuff like that. So yeah, something like Wind River is like a great find if I can, get to it and throw it in the mix, because people have to have something positive to go to whenever some of this stuff stinks. Like, there's so many good things to do. There's no reason for us to get consumed and bogged
Yeah.
down by the negative. And that's why this
The
show was so important.
Well, I love talking about things. I love talking about the good movies, the good shows out there when everyone is just consumed with pointing out all the bad, and there is a lot of bad, and I I enjoy watching bad movies and series as well, but I do like to balance it. That's why whenever I talk about Mayor of Kingstown, I bring up Shot Caller, which is a movie I think from 2019, maybe 2020, with Jamie Lannister. And oh, it is, if you like Mayor of Kingstown, you're gonna love it. It's a stockbroker who has to go to prison because he's in a DWI and kills his friend, right? So involuntary manslaughter, I think, is what it gets, and he has to click up. He has to join the AB, and it's about his journey through going up the ranks of the Aryan Brotherhood, and he has a wife and a kid on the outside, and it's so good. And if you've ever wondered how scary prison can be, that's the one. It will make you, wow, I'm never committing a crime again, or my taxes paid up.
Yeah, I tell you, the when I watched Oz back in the day, I was like, ooh, ooh, boy, ooh, ooh, ooh. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not built for this. Oh
No.
boy, yeah, stay clear of this nonsense. So, okay, so as we kind of got to the end of season two, and you were talking about, kind of being at least feeling somewhat let down. It is pretty hard, right? When they hit the ball
Yeah.
out of the park with season one. It's like, how do you follow that up? And I think what they did well. I want to go to episode 9 because I haven't done a review on episode 9. Excuse me.
Yeah, that's the penultimate, right?
Yeah. They kind of set Mike aside for a minute and allow all the other characters to have their stories that kind of move forward and different things that happen. Now there is conflict that arrives at Mike's doorstep, right? He kind of gets run down, the AB guys there, whatever. But what's great when we get into we pick the story back up again, Mike is kind of like, well, when did that happen? What do you mean he's out of prison? When did this happen? It's like, it felt like I was like, okay, see, this is good writing. This is people that really have a self-awareness to the characters that they're working on.
Yeah, I agree. I liked the episode. It was kind of cool seeing Mike take a day off, and it's just him doing a pub crawl by himself in a suit,
Mm-hmm.
walking everywhere. I liked, but I it it's it felt a little filler for me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because they were trying to move everyone else's story along to get to
Yeah.
this final episode that was probably already written. See, this is the thing about Hollywood, guys. If you haven't figured out this, and Matt and I haven't talked about this, but most of these things happen where like episodes 1 and 2 and the last one are done. That's what
Mhm.
gets sold. And then you got to fill in this middle. So you know where you're going. And it's like, I feel like there's so many shows that are like this. And I feel like with Mike, they didn't need him to do a whole lot in this episode, but it brought the authenticity of him reacting. And spoiler alerts on season 2, because I can't not discuss this because this was a saving grace for me, which at least lets me know that I'm staying for season 3, or at least I understand what they were trying to do,
Mhm.
even though I can agree with you that it didn't quite get there. My, Mike has this great line about, I'm clearing the chessboard. I'm clearing the
Yeah.
board. Like I can't, they're coming after me personally. I can't get them under control. Behind the fence, in front of the fence, bunnies ticked off at me. I got a mess at my doorstep, and that's what they're trying to go for, is a clearing of the thing and how far Mike would go. And I think the problem is the shootout at the railroad tracks comes too early in the episode. Like it all comes too soon before it wraps up.
It, my problem with though is because the car's just sitting there, and before he ever got into the SUV, I'm like, wait a minute, where are the bonds? I
Right.
can't believe you left them in the car, and I guess it was there. It was a device to add tension because it's just sitting there with the bonds that he's supposed to be giving to Milo, but he doesn't have it. I don't know how I always forget his name, the bald white guy that covers up everything for him. I don't know how he has 15 officers that he can trust to get rid of these bodies in this car. That seems like a lot of people to bring in on a cover up. You know what I mean?
No, I agree. I think that this is where the show it gets a little too carried away with
Yep.
itself, with the cover up aspects. Like, so for instance, in season 1, when he saves Iris from the ABs because she's been human trafficked into
Right.
their house now, he goes there. He's just mowing people down, and Stevie later finds the cell phone, and finds evidence that Mike was somehow linked to it all, and he just drops it in the bathtub of acid. Like it's
That
a
was
very,
perfectly done.
yes, executed perfectly well. Something like this has so much bigger scale. It's like you're talking about 4 or 5 dead Russians at a railroad stop, like in Mike's car.
Yep.
Like they're at Mike's car, which he left behind in the scene. It's like, well, just clean that up for me. I'm like, what are you asking me to do? Like, are you out of your mind? How am I going to clean that up?
And he cleans it up by sending 4 or 5 patrol vehicles with probably 2 each. You know, there's at least a dozen officers out there at where they're supposed to be cleaning up, and that stood out to me because I read about this. There was this paper that was done in academia about conspiracy theories, and it was a formula of you got to look at how many people it would take to cover up something. Let's say the moon landing, the amount of people that it would take versus how long it has been. The likelihood of the conspiracy theory being true lessens with the more time that passes and the more amount of the amount of people that have to be involved to keep it a secret.
Yeah, the risk of penalty expires. So you have people who are like, well, I worked for NASA in 30 something years. So what do I care? I'll tell them what happened. You know, I have this photo that I stole and I have this that I did, you know, and you have that kind of stuff that, you know, can come to light. Something like this. I couldn't agree more. Well, here's why I have hope though. It's like the way they transition from season 1 to season 2. I'm like, you're going to have to deal with this in season 3. You're going to have Mike in probably the formula. I don't know if she was the assistant DA. I don't know if she technically is the DA or she has to run for office. Yeah.
She's temporarily.
Right. I think she probably has to be in his crosshairs. Like, what am I supposed to do with this, Mike? You don't think that, you know, 5 officers are going to keep quiet forever, do you? You can't, you know, something like this, something like that.
Even the AB guy that he killed in the penultimate, the one that tried to run him down.
Yeah.
At least do a statement. You're in the right here. You know, he tried to run you over with a car.
Yeah, they don't even address it.
Never even addressed.
Yeah. No. So this is where the show become like it stopped being like that 8 or 9. You know what I mean? It stopped being that, you know, top notch, top tier.
Yeah, I agree.
Season 2 kind of comes down to like a 7, where they leave some loose ends and some contradictions that are kind of out of character. And I didn't dive deep into who wrote what episodes and things like that. My experience is usually that, you know, it's a fill-in writer or something like that. There's a couple loose ends that kind of got away from him. But the fact that it was the finale, I agree with you. I'm like, what were you doing? You know, you better have a reason of how you're going to handle this mess. It has to be to set up more problems for this guy. It can't just be something that we walk away from.
I don't even know what's happening with Bunny right now, because I get that it's really changing their relationship between Mike and Bunny, because, you know, they jumped Robert and almost killed him. I like the way that they robbed the gun store. That was pretty.
Yep.
I don't know why he went in there himself.
Yeah, why would he not send his guys?
I guess because he has the most charisma points in his character that he rolled. You know, maybe he rolled a high charisma, but I didn't like that. Because I don't want Bunny and Mike to fight, because I love them together so much. I don't like to see them fight. You know, I even like Bunny with the other brother, with the baby brother.
Yeah, Baby Bro was a great sequence of episodes where
him trying to find
Bunny and Kyle, and Bunny calling him Baby Bro. I agree, because when the truck basically burst to a gunshot, and Bunny could have just walked away, let them take over and take care of everything. He didn't actually have to touch a gun or leave any evidence or whatever. And then later on, the fact that they're going to do this to Robert, I think it's what we said earlier. It's out of character in the sense of Bunny's smarter than that. He knows it's going to come back to get him. Why would he put himself in harm's way to get arrested or end up, you know, being tied to something?
Right. I'm with him with he has to show power. Because you can look at a world leader, if they're cornered, especially in an authoritarian regime, if they're cornered, they have to do something, or they're going to be attacked from within. So for Bunny to remain in the position that he's in, he has to flex that muscle. And so since people want, you know, revenge for what happened in the prison, I don't think it should have been focused only on Robert, because it wasn't really established his direct impact on the Crips themselves. They were just mowing down anybody that came in their way,
Yeah, everybody,
Right.
and anybody that was in their line of sight was the target. That's for sure.
But I get Bunny's motivation for why he's saying that no, we have to go to war. This shit can't, keep going like this. But there's no reason for him to be the tip of the spear. He's the leader for a reason. You got if you don't trust one of your boys to do something like that, then you don't have the right boys around you. You need to you need to clear the chessboard and restructure your organization if you don't have anybody that can do that job without you being there.
Yeah. And we are in heavy spoiler territory for any of you, because I want to get to the mom.
Do we?
So Diane Wiest is actually a pretty good actress. I met her back when she did Edward Scissorhands. I mean, she's
nice.
she's a really nice, sweet lady. Works her butt off, and she's gotten a lot of roles over the years. And she plays the most irrelevant character in all of season 1 and now in season 2. Like, I feel like they only made her because of The Sopranos. Like, well, we need to have a mom. We need to have a strong mom. We need to have. And I thought, well, season 1, isn't she supposed to be like the political lefty anti-prison, they're always right type stuff, with her going there and teaching and preaching to these people behind the walls? And then in season 2, she's completely irrelevant. I don't even care at all what she says or does at this point.
All of her scenes basically boil down to her, Mike, have you talked to him yet? Mike, have you talked to him yet? And that's it. But I think it is weird because after Iris, the next most prominent female you have is the mother. Mm-hmm. And I get what you're saying about being the left-leaning, kind of social justice warrior in a truer sense than what we see, in real world. But that doesn't really feel true to me either, because she has been a part of this family, and this family has been doing this for 50 years or whatever, 40 years. They've been in this position. So she's either being willfully blind to the reality of the world that they live in, or they just don't know what to do with her character.
Yeah, I think I would, if I gave them complete benefit of the doubt, I would say they're trying to allude to the hypocrisy of that type of bleeding heart mentality. But at the same time, it's so irrelevant in season 2. Mm-hmm. I don't even understand, why did she not become a casualty sooner? And I think that the way season 2 wraps up, where her health is in question, is her way of possibly getting out of the contract. Like, it's like time for her to move on, kind of thing, because we don't need her.
Speaking of her being injured, I loved the conversation between Mike and Cal at the hospital, mm-hmm. when he's like, "But you're going to be grounded for life."
That was a great line.
Great. Mm-hmm. Because it's so intense and sad and emotional, and he breaks it like a brother would, a big brother would do, to help him calm down a little bit. Because Cal, he's a wreck.
Yeah, he seemed like he was trying to get his act together after the PTSD of the prison riot, and he seems like he's improving reasonably well before the final 2 episodes, and then it starts to just shake completely loose. So he's just like he's a train wreck now.
Not to mention the added stress of the last shootout he was, when he tried to leave Kingstown, at least occupational wise, and he's there with I forgot his name. Oh, oh man, that actor's so good too. His partner. Oh, you remember what I'm talking about when he worked for the state police?
Oh yeah. He's like this incompetent, corrupt boob of a police guy who's like just randomly doing things that puts everyone in harm's way, that ultimately culminate with a major shootout that didn't even need to happen.
And by the way, again, tactically, beautiful. The way he drew him shooting, it was beautiful. The baby in the back, like, oh man. Mm-hmm. But by the way, his partner was in the series Jericho. He was trying to be the mayor. Did you ever see Jericho?
I love Jericho. Season 1 Jericho is fantastic.
Yes. They had to rush it because they
got canceled in the middle of season 2.
Yeah, then everybody sent peanuts to the CBS headquarters or whatever. Anyway, But the guy that kept trying to be mayor and was elected mayor in the first season, maybe it was the
Right.
second, but that's who his partner was from
Yeah.
Jericho.
He was a good actor and it was a good
Yeah.
performance. It's not that. It's just the fact that it was just like Kyle just can't get a break, man. Kyle is
No.
constantly Michael Gaston. That's his name,
Okay.
I think. That's who played the mayor or the mayor's opponent. So I'm double
Yeah.
checking. So yeah.
But
Yeah, that's him. Yeah.
and then his wife, she looks miserable. She I don't want to say she sucks the life out of him, but she doesn't help.
Well, I don't even think she knows what to do. Like I think that
Yeah.
being a cop's wife from like the beginning of season 1 to where they are now, it's taken a toll on her. She's a freaking mess now. She's like, I don't even know what to say or do. Like I don't know what you want to do. And I don't think Kyle knows what he wants to do. Everything is a
Mm-mm.
mess. And I think that part has been really good the way they moved Kyle forward in that regard. Like, what are you gonna do now, man? You tried to leave last time, it didn't work. So now what are you gonna do?
Yeah, and I get how tough it can be. I mean, there was plenty of mornings where I would get home and I would have to strip down to my underwear at the front door because of just the nastiness that has gotten on me from after a bad night, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And whether it's, pepper spray, blood, just grossness. But yeah, and if you got to be careful not to take it home with you because it will affect your relationships with everybody around you if you don't know how to process it.
Hmm.
Or if you don't allow the traumatic things that happen breathe. You got to let them breathe. You got to grieve those things to let it really go, or it will just haunt you.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a challenge sometimes to leave work at work, no matter what we're doing, and then when you start dealing with something that is, a job that puts you in harm's way and deals with so much trauma, it's even worse. Like you're just, I think this is one of the things that's come out over the last 2 years that's actually been a positive was the lack of sort of like therapeutic support. You know what I mean? For like a basically
Right.
equivalent of like a PTSD. Forget about just shootings, just violence in general. Just the idea of this stuff's happening all around you or regularly, it just kind of messes with your psyche so much.
That
Yeah.
that on top of I worked nights. Being a cop at night is entirely different than being a cop on day shift. I never could do day shift because people tend to remember all the dumb shit. I'm a very sarcastic person, and uh, and it was still the case when I was a cop. So I would say dumb shit to people. But on my shift, they're mostly drunk or high. So who's gonna believe them? Day shift, people remember everything you say. But
Mhm.
oh man, you deal with some of the worst people, and it's all the thing that sticks with you the most is always the whenever kids are involved. You know,
Oh yeah.
any
Yeah.
type of abuse, and that tends to stick with at least my experience more than any of the violence, the fights. Having to fight guys or whatever. That always sticks the most and hardest to shake.
Which again, the show tapped in beautifully with season 1 because it's the traumatic death of the child in the meth lab that
Yeah,
triggers the big
exactly.
chaos, the pivot point for the entire season 1. It's like it's the catalyst for everything, and no one can get it out of their head. No one can let it go, and it's like, okay, yeah, I
Yeah.
got that. I got that
Um.
too.
Also, her being pregnant, I understand the added tension that it add, but it also hurts the show in a way because now you have a frame of time because she's as pregnant as she was last season.
Hmm. Hmm.
There's really this is either the slowest cooking baby or this shit is happening in very quick succession. It's just one thing after another happening.
Yeah, and I think that's. I mean, I'm presuming that's kind of what they're going for. However, you're absolutely right. When season 3 kicks off, she needs to be delivering a kid. Like, there's
Yeah.
no doubt about it. Like, it just needs to have some sort of crazy birth going on. And the show really does a great job of just creating like multiple characters that represent different things in a very believable way. Not sure what's off the limits there either. They push the envelope the best they can. Yeah, I really, really am just impressed with the show, guys. And if you haven't seen it, man, it's something special. I have to be
We
honest.
we haven't even talked about the look at the pretty flowers.
Look at the pretty flowers. What are you talking about?
The serial killer when he has
Oh,
him down by the water. and he pulls out his gun like Mice and Men or in The Walking Dead. You know, when she tells the little girl, "Look at the flowers."
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I
that
mean,
was. Yeah, they again. So again, major spoilers of this serial killer that Ian basically goes on a drive to the dentist, convinces him how he has to knock his own tooth out to get to go, and then turns this guy loose to basically
intimidate a
execute.
witness for robbery.
Well, yeah,
Well,
well,
that
it
wasn't
goes
his
sideways.
intention. That
Right.
wasn't his
Yeah.
intention.
Yeah. Good
And
point.
he warned him. He warned the dude. Don't hear him say. Don't let him hear you say that. It won't be good. And as soon as he says it, in an instant,
Yeah, it was
done.
a second. It was like one edit, and you're just your jaw's hanging open, like I
Like,
can't believe what
what?
just happened. And then for Ian, like you said, he's standing there. Was he having ice cream? What did he get for
It
ice
was
cream?
like a slushy from 7-Eleven.
Right, 7-Eleven, like an icy, yeah, yeah. And you're like, oh, this is going to be over soon. Oh, no, Ian, put him back. Ian's going to save him for another day. Put him on the shelf for season 3, I guess.
Well, I
Wow.
think he feels sorry for him. I think
Oh yeah.
he genuinely likes this guy or cares for him. Not like he genuinely cares for him because you can tell he he's not full fatata, but he's at least half a fatata. You know,
Mm. Yeah.
he's not quick on the uptake, and it seems like and they were able to establish that they have this rapport with each other that has developed over years.
Right, which again goes back to what you said earlier, like how many times has Ian done this?
Right.
So it's all brought into question. So, any other thoughts that you have for these first couple seasons and where you filmed? You talk about rewatching season 2 anyway. So,
Yeah, I'm going to be doing that soon. As I I know it sounds as though I'm hesitant to be so critical about season 2 because it is so good compared to in comparison, you know, relative to everything else. But
yep.
I can't, you know, not be honest about the show. If there's problems, I'm going to show it, and I think it actually helps because even with the issues that we've talked about, the show still works and is still enjoyable.
Oh,
And
I
I think
absolutely agree. It's like season 1 is like this, 8 or a 9 kind of thing. It's one of these great, great shows.
one of the best first
It's
seasons.
fantastic.
One,
And
yeah,
then, when season 2 slides to a 7, I'm not sure I really gonna hate on that too much. You know what I mean? It's like,
I
well, wait,
agree. Yeah,
everything else is like a 5 at best. Like we struggle to get shows at 5. So yeah, this show is really top tier. And if even the stuff that we're picking out, we didn't even scratch the surface of some of the crazy sequences where they, Mike sent out to go find a metal box in the field. Well, he finds a school bus.
that was season 1, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Things like that. It's like, oh my gosh, this show it doesn't shy away from doing crazy things. Like it's just so good. I can't believe it. So yeah, awesome. Well, Matt, thanks for hanging out. We talking about all this.
Anytime, man. I love talking about this stuff. By the way, I was just thinking the best pilot I've ever seen for any show was the pilot for Justified.
Oh yes, at the end. Oh,
Beautiful,
shoot. Yeah, yeah,
beautiful pilot. Great show.
yeah, yeah. I agree with that too. I've actually. I can't even tell you. We got through it, and I actually didn't hate on the finale as much as it probably deserved. I'm like, it's fine.
I
It's
couldn't
okay.
either. I couldn't have. Yeah.
But the pilot is one that I've rewatched. I don't even know how many times. It's just so good.
I've rewatched that show at least twice now, maybe 3 times. The only thing that bothers me is why did he get knocked on the ground if it gets shot his head?
Yeah, because it grazes his head, but doesn't knock him out. Like, so it's like, okay, well, yeah. Anyway,
Only issue, and it came in the
yeah,
very last episode.
yeah. I thought it drug a lot in the middle. There was a couple of between like seasons 3 and 4. There's like
I agree. Yeah,
yeah,
but
we don't need all these episodes. But back then, we had to do what we did. So. But listen, folks, all of the links are there for you to go over and check out stuff. I mean, honestly, I found this guy back when he was doing Street Smarts and Speakeasy and stuff like that. Now he's doing like some movies with Mad. Do you have like a set schedule of things? I think you just you're flying by
absolutely
the seat
not.
of your pants. Yeah, you're flying by the seat of your pants, man.
Yeah, I really am. I'm working on a new one, but I'm having issues with it being blocked on YouTube. So it's just a pain in the butt. But I'm hoping to have a new movies with Matt up within a day or two.
All right. Sounds good. Sounds good. Well, thanks, folks. Again, if you have checked this show out, we'd love to hear from you. If you have other questions or comments that you want to make, we're always welcome to that too. So thank you so much for hanging out with us. I am Pops.